Hi, everybody. It's Maria Di Simone. Welcome back to my channel. I just recently released a video where I started to explore the differences between using Hellenistic and modern astrology and blending them, specifically the house systems, Placidus house system versus the whole sign house system. And I received a lot of comments, a lot of interest and emails about this video and about this topic. So I know that you guys want more of this material. And so these videos are definitely not your typical sun sign astrology, basic astrology. This is advanced astrology, definitely for the serious student or for the astrologer, the professional astrologer. If that is not you, then you're probably going to be lost with this type of content and you have to kind of learn more of the basics first. But if this video does appeal to you, then what I'm going to talk about today is going to that next step with exploring the Placidus house system and the whole sign house system, and how, like I maintain in my other video, one is not wrong, one is not right, one is not better than the other. They both have validity. And it is the astrologer using the tool that can show that validity, that can really demonstrate the beauty of both systems and how both systems work. And what I'm going to do today in this video is demonstrate this using my chart again, but talking about other topics in my life. I'm going to talk about career. I'm going to talk about the ruler of the chart, the ruler of the ascendant, and then I'm even going to go into some fourth house significations. So I'm going to do this by going back and forth between my Placidus chart and my whole sign house chart so that you can see that although there are different ways of getting information, the information is valid. And I'm doing this video because I want it to stimulate you, to inspire you to now go to your chart. And if you have been using one of these house systems exclusively, be open to looking at it in another house system just to play, just to see what you find in your own chart. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised because astrology really is not limited to one system, one way of looking at things. It really has so much dynamism. All right, so I'm going to talk about career first. It's interesting because using the Placidus house system, there isn't anything specifically when you look at my vocational profile that would say very specifically that I am an astrologer. But there are indications, and everything else that I do for a living is very clearly demonstrated with the Placidus house system and the whole sign house system. It is interesting how the whole sign house system becomes a little bit more specific about actually saying I am an astrologer. But I think that if we use modern astrology and integrate the outer planets, then when we look at my Placidus chart, you can actually see evidence of me being an astrologer as well, vocationally. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get started with this fun phase 2 experiment. You're looking right now at my Placidus chart, and I'm just going to use this wheel because it is thicker, so it might come across clearer on your screen. So for anybody's vocational profile, we begin at the midheaven. We talk about the sign on the cusp of the midheaven first, and that opens the door to the discussion for anybody's vocational profile. So here we are looking at my chart using the Placidus house system. My midheaven is 13 degrees Capricorn. Capricorn energy, this is a cardinal earth sign. So right off the bat, this is a builder. This is an entrepreneurial energy. This is very structured, responsible, somebody who considers their reputation important in their profession. But to get more information about what the native of this chart, myself, can do for a living professionally, we then have to go to the ruler of the midheaven. The sign Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn. And so here we are. Saturn is in Cancer in the third house of my chart. Okay. So, added information. Saturn in the third house really talks about a vocational profile that will have to do with third house matters. And third house matters have everything to do with communications, whether it is teaching, writing, speaking, all sorts of communications. And it is interesting because my entire business is very much third house. So I do have a consulting practice where I see clients, but I also literally make money by writing horoscope columns. This is a third house activity. I have written astrology reports that are on sale online. That is a third house activity. I have written articles and blogs and text for astrology apps. I've done a lot of writing as an astrologer, and I get paid for it. That is a third house activity. I also have my own astrology school, and I'm going to get to that vocationally. That reveals itself in a bit of a different way, but in line with communications, it's certainly there. How I got my start as an astrologer was really through tarot.com syndicating my astrology videos. So years ago, I was one of the first astrologers out there who would do video horoscopes. There were, I think, maybe 3 astrologers who did this, or 3 people who did this. And I was one of them. And I ended up securing a deal with tarot.com, a business deal where they exclusively syndicated my horoscopes for many years. And that also would be reflective of a third house activity. Filming horoscopes, having the horoscopes shown. And so again, sharing the communication. Very interesting that literally it shows third house activity as a dominant energy for me in my career path. Now, some people say in modern astrology that Uranus rules astrology and is connected to astrology. And it has been said that people who have a strong Uranus placement have an ability and aptitude for astrology. So I will note that even though it's not specifically connected to my vocational profile, that I do have an angular Uranus placement. And an angular Uranus is notable in a lot of charts of astrologers, not all astrologers, but it is something. Since we're considering modern astrology right now and using the Placidus system, I did want to mention it. Something else that I want to mention is that you have to consider the aspects that are made to the midheaven when you look at career. And so I do have Mars also in the third house. Mars is my chart ruler. It is opposite the midheaven. Now, this adds to my entrepreneurial ability. This adds to the capacity to kind of go after what I want professionally. And by the way, these planets in the sign Cancer can definitely symbolize somebody who works from home. I have always worked from home. So that is true. Now, Jupiter is here in its home sign of rulership, Pisces, very strong in the 12th house. This is a lot of spiritual wisdom. Jupiter is making a tight sextile to the midheaven. And that brings a great deal of career support that would connect to the career in terms of Jupiter matters. So all of that hidden spiritual wisdom is basically very much coming out in my career sector. Jupiter rules the 9th house. And Jupiter is the Jupiter sextile midheaven is the reason why I have an astrology school. It is the reason why I spread my message in a very significant way to others. And I do it for healing purposes, Jupiter and Pisces in the 12th house, but also for learning to spread the wisdom of astrology, to share that. So these are some of the indications. Now, the sun and Mercury are making a wide trine to the midheaven using the Placidus house system. In the Placidus chart, the sun and Mercury are in the first house of self, identity. So there is this leadership ability to bring communications into my career again. It's said more than once. Mercury widely trine the midheaven. To be honest, I wouldn't even pay too much attention to that in modern astrology because the orb is rather wide. The sun trine midheaven, I definitely would take because it's a closer orb. So the sun trine midheaven is what kind of, I guess you could say, gets me out in the spotlight a little bit in terms of what I do professionally. And that makes sense given the career path that I've had. So there's the Placidus chart, okay? You may be wondering, well, does all of this go away when we look at the other chart? When we look at the whole sign house chart, does Maria's vocational profile as an astrologer or as somebody who does a great deal in the communications industry specifically, does that all just go away? It doesn't, okay? So remember, my point is that using one system doesn't negate the other. They are both valid. And if you are trained, you can find the information regardless of what house system you use. So now we're going to go to the whole sign chart and we're going to do the vocational profile all over again. And you're going to see that it basically says the same thing, but it goes about it in a slightly different way because the planets have shifted into different houses. Very cool stuff. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to go to the whole sign chart. Now, for some reason, I have to use a different style chart in order for you to see the ascendant degree and the midheaven degree using the whole sign chart. So it's a little bit lighter on your screen, but it's there. Hopefully you can see it. Now, again, we follow the same method, vocational profile, okay, to look at the vocational profile. So again, the midheaven, everything we said about Capricorn midheaven in the other chart is true. Same holds true. And once again, we now want to go and trace the ruler of the midheaven. All of a sudden, the ruler of my midheaven is in the fourth house. And so, looking at that by itself gets a little confusing because I don't do fourth house things for a living. Yes, I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, a housewife for a while. That's true. The only fourth house thing that I do professionally now is I work from home. For 20 years, I have worked from home. I've worked from home longer if you consider the time that I was a housewife and stay-at-home mom. But I work from home, but you know what? A lot of us work from home now. But it is there. It does show that. And in traditional astrology, the fourth house actually also connects to hidden matters. So I also wonder if there's this energy of expressing deep hidden matters in my career path by using fourth house significations. But definitely I work from home. Okay, we could take that. But the vocational profile becomes a little bit different when we are looking at the whole sign chart, because in the whole sign chart, my sun and Mercury are now in the second house. And the second house has to do with your livelihood. It has to do with how you make money and your livelihood. And I have the sun and Mercury there. And Mercury, in traditional astrology, is the significator of astrologers and prophets, as well as orators, all people, scribes, people who share communication. So once again, there is that creative and practical communication energy that is shown in my business because these planets are making a trine to the midheaven. And it This literally can say, I am in the business of being an astrologer or communicator, writer. And that, again, is all very true. And the sextile of Jupiter still fits to the midheaven. So it is very interesting that you can use either system and find out information about my vocational profile. So there's probably more, and I'm not, looking at anything else right now. So I'm sure that I missed a couple of nuggets here, but this video is supposed to inspire you to now go to your chart and look at your chart in the Placidus house system and then the whole sign house system and go and see what it says about your career path or the topic of your choice. And I'll do other short videos where I look at different topics, demonstrating this again, just to kind of keep bringing the point home and to help you do this exercise for yourself. So let me know in the comments how this turns out for you. And if you find that looking at your chart in both houses helps amplify information, or if it just confuses you. And I do have a feeling that if it just completely confuses you, it may be because you're not farther enough in your studies to really analyze all of the significations and put it all together and connect the dots. So maybe you just need to study some more with one house system until you're comfortable to branch out into the other. But you can blend and combine these two successfully. And I really don't think that you'll be wrong. All right, so let me know what you got in the comments, and I hope